Welcome to Rebel Driver's Garage. So it's a little dark. I have a light out. Behind me is a very special car. It's a 1957 Chevy Nomad, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And the story behind this is that the person who bought this car restored it, and he was a dentist, and he actually was a dentist, so he was so passionate about restoring this that he actually built a garage on the backside of his dental practice in order to be able to work on this car in between patients. So he'd go out there, double glove up, and work on the car if he had 15-20 minutes in between patients. And what he did is just amazing. This car is absolutely beautiful, but there's also a sad story to this. This car has never really been driven. It was restored in 1994, and he sadly passed away suddenly, quite suddenly, and tragically. And the only time he ever drove the car was to get exhaust on it. It actually has only 46 miles on it since then, and it's been sitting for the past 25 years. So the owner of the car, his son, has asked me to help him get it back on the road, and that's what we're going to do. So let me show you the car a little bit. I'll switch the camera around here. I want to show you something. This thing is so beautiful, but unfortunately it doesn't run. It hasn't run in all that time since 1995 or 1994. And it's amazing that this car, you look at it and you go, oh my god, it's a museum piece. It's beautiful. Check this out. So what we're looking at here is a 1957 Chevy Nomad, and the Nomad was a sport wagon from 55 to 57. Chevrolet continued to use the Nomad name up until like 1960, I believe, but they were four-door wagons, and they were actually a cheap wagon. This thing, the 55 to 57 Nomads were very special. Now they did have other two-door wagons in those years. They were mostly 210s or some 150s, and this is actually has the Bel Air trim on it. And the Nomads had these ridges along the roofline here, and they had this tailgate set up that kind of tilted back towards the car, towards the front, and gave it a really sporty look. Let me see here, like that. I don't know what color this blue is. I'll have to look up the name of the brand, but this thing hasn't even been registered. It was registered once. I found these license plates in the car. They're historical, but if you can see, it was registered in 2002, but it was really never driven at all. And you can see on the 46 miles. Unbelievable. Check out this interior. In 1957, these Chevys, they had this wonderful two-tone interior that you could get that had this really cool pattern on it. And you can have the pattern and this pattern, and like I've seen it in black and I've seen it in silver. Like sometimes the red interiors would have a silver kind of pattern here in the middle, and it's a vinyl, and this is some sort of, I don't know what to call what kind of material it is, but it's not vinyl. And it's absolutely stunning. As you can see, the car is just absolutely beautiful. It has a little bit of dust on it from sitting in a shop, in the owner's son's shop for all these years. So these side windows here, they don't roll down. They just kind of slide back. I'm not going to force it until I figure out what's left. The doors hadn't been open in so long they were kind of stuck. The windows were stuck to the seals. Let me see here. It's a 283 four-barrel automatic and power glide. So it's got the cast iron power glide in it. It has an AM radio. Just something about these cars in this era. They were just so classy. Not riding around in some ugly car. This is no minivan. Back when people wanted to have a sporty little wagon, carry the kids, go get groceries, go on vacations. Hold on, I'll open the hood. Okay, under the hood. This is a 283, it's a 4-barrel. They call this the Power Pack, and I believe it was rated at 220 horsepower, but don't quote me on that. It does not have power steering, and it does not have, power steering, which would be on the back of the generator here, and it does not have power brakes. Just a 283 4-barrel, no air conditioning either, which was, I don't know if it was even available. As you can see, they tried one time trying to get it running, and they thought it was running hot, so they put this temperature gauge here inside of it, hooked into the intake manifold. It still has fluids in it, I believe. Yeah, it's still got oil. No, yeah, it smells like gasoline. They said the carburetor leaked all over the place when they tried to start it about 15 years ago. And let's see here. It does have a little bit of antifreeze in it still. Yeah, we don't have a battery in it right now. They brought over a battery for me to put in it, but I'll worry about that later. I'm told there's no brakes. So let's see what happens. I'm going to get inside this and push the brake pedal. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's nothing there. Absolutely nothing. So, like all cars that you leave sit for 20 years. Alright, close that glove box. Oh, it's going to need master cylinder. Probably wheel cylinders. They're probably shot. These tires were brand new when they were put on the car in 1995. And what are they? Kelly Explorers. 215 75 14s, white walls. But they haven't been driven. They've been sitting in the same spot in this garage for 25 years, so they're probably flat spotted all to hell. I don't know if we could trust driving on them. I mean, they don't feel dry rotted or cracked or anything. I mean, the garage was actually a climate controlled garage. It had air conditioning on today. But we're going to replace the tires. And then I got to fix the fuel system. Let me get a light. I'll show you what's underneath. Alright, as you can see underneath the car, it still looks mostly new. But there you can see where moisture has actually got to the frame here. It's got a little bit of rust going on here. But the rest of the car looks pretty damn nice under here. The Power Glide transmission, like all automatic transmissions, if you let them sit for 20 years, they just kind of puke their guts all over the floor. He had a giant drain pan underneath the car. Let me move around and I'll show you some more of it. As you can see, it's got the kind of the factory style overspray on the floor, and then most of the bottom of the floor, as you can see, it's in that primer that they did the floorboards they did this all the way up into the 70s. And he's got the dropout center section rear end there with the red center section. I guess that's stock for them. And the mufflers and exhaust looks brand new still after 25 years. It hasn't been touched. As you can see. Oops, I got my fingers in the way there. It's got a little bit of moisture rust on it, as you can see. Not much, but we're going to get this thing on jack stands. And, oh, there it is. Oh, that's weird. And go through the brakes. I see there's like cobwebs underneath here still. Cobwebs on the tires. I'll probably find spiders in the wheels when I take them off. And maybe some other. Okay, it's not focusing. That's weird. All right, let's see here. Let's see how this works. You pull the. Oh, she's stiff. Oh, she hasn't been opened in ever. Oh, it's got the cables pulling on it a little bit. Look at that. Okay. And does it just lift? I think it. Oops, I'm sorry. I just lifted up like that. There. Should be. I thought there was a support arm that held the roof up, but maybe there isn't. Oh, it's missing. That's where it bolts on. So, it's supposed to bolt on there and here, but he doesn't have them on there for some reason. Very strange. Have to get one of those and put it on. Under the carpet back here. This is spare tire well, no spare tire. A little bit of dirt. What? That's so odd that he didn't get this hatch supports on. Oh, here it's 4th of July. See the seat back there? The seat would fold down and you'd have all the cargo space up to the back of the front seat. And carry whatever you wanted. There you go. I'm going to close this back up. Yeah. And the Nomad name. One thing about the 57 Chevys is in 55 the gas door was on the quarter panel. In 56 it went behind the tail light. In 57 it was just part of this right here. Yep. See? It's hidden back there. That side has the same kind of piece, but it doesn't move, so it's just kind of bolted on. What's amazing about this car is that so many of these cars, I mean, it's a rare car to begin with. The production numbers are not very high at all. But 99% of them you see on the road are resto mods. You don't see one restored faithfully back to stock like this one. And I think that's what's so unique about it. That, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Tell me what you think. Make it run and drive, obviously. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get a new master cylinder. I'm going to open the cap up here in a second to show you what's going on in there. I don't know what's going on. I just got this thing over at my house. Second, we're going to order master cylinder. I'm going to order wheel cylinders. And when I get up, they'll get the wheels off. If I need other stuff, if the brake, it was the right front brake or left front brake was clicking when we moved it, so there might be something wrong in there. It could be just the spring that's not put in correctly. We're going to make it run and drive. So I got to do the brakes, and then I got to figure out the fuel system. Obviously, the fuel in this is 25 years old. It probably is just absolutely horrid smelling, and hopefully the tank isn't full of rust. So if it is full of rust, we'll have to buy a new gas tank. We'll see. I'm going to get a carburetor kit and rebuild the original car. That's a Rochester 4Jet. Normally on these, what is known as a WCFB carburetor. They're rated about 450 CFM. First, let's put a battery in it. And try to ignore the artillery shells going off outside. So yes, 4th of July. Yeah, no, I'm not participating in the fireworks. I'll barbecue. Blowing stuff up is not my big deal. So we put a battery in. Got a battery in there. You see the sediment in this? The bottom of the filter. Yeah. Let's go. Before we do anything, let's go. Let's do the old sniff the gasoline test. Oh. Yeah, she smells like an old can of turpentine. Oh. Yuck. Oops. There went the doohickey for this. Yeah, boy. There you go. Whatever gas is in there does not smell good. There we go. Yeah, turn on the headlights. We got, oh look, we have headlights. We have taillights. We have taillights. Yeah, see, it's underneath the cover. Trying to keep the cars covered as much as possible because it just these fans I have in here blow dust everywhere. Alright, so we got headlights. The little indicator on the dashboard says I love that, that's a little bow tie. Isn't that wonderful? So the brights are on. The brights are off. Hey, the dimmer switch works. Let's turn the key. Oh look, those lights work. Oh, it went to full. I'm hoping this thing wasn't full of gas. I did see there's a drain plug on the gas tank, but I'm hoping that's not. It's got a full tank of gas because I was planning on draining whatever was in it. If it's full tank of gas, oh boy. Let's see if it cranks. Hopefully it's not stuck. Ooh. Okay. Well, look at that. So I don't want to do much cranking on her. Wow. First thing I'm going to do is, well, I already have, is I'm assessing the brakes, see what's going on with them. The master cylinder is absolutely bone dry. It's hard to see down there. I should get a light down, but it's dry as a bone. There's nothing in it. Yeah, it's super dry. All right, so, sorry. And it looks like, if you look down here, see where it's all wet at the fitting? It looks like it leaked out over time. And it probably ran down the brake line. And what I'm seeing on the frame down here is, see how the frame is all like all the paint's coming off, like it's a chemical reaction that happens with brake fluid. So obviously that's going to happen. As you can see, the transmission's already marking its territory in my garage. So seals are probably shot on that, but I'm going to try to get it to go and move and see what happens, and then we'll get it over to the transmission shop. The brakes, while they look fantastic, pulling back the seals on the wheel cylinder, you can see how it just runs out this black oily goop, and you can see on the brake drum how it's all wet right around here. and then dry. So it's been leaking out of there. You can see how it's been leaking down there. I just put the seals back and they just started pouring out. Now the hardware on all the brakes looks fantastic. Okay, they look fantastic. Let's go look at the back brakes. Okay, the back brakes look fine. I pulled the seals back on those, but it's dry, but I don't trust it. So the brake shoes still look brand new. I mean, they've never been used. All the hardware looks brand new. Alright, all that looks fantastic. So we're going to leave all that. We're going to reuse the shoes and all that. They don't seem to be separating from the... They're bonded shoes. They're not riveted. They're bonded. So they're kind of like what you call glued to the shoe backing plates. But they're not coming off or nothing, so I think they're okay. So we'll go ahead and reuse all that, but we will replace the wheel cylinders. And obviously we're going to have to bleed the brakes when we do. We're going to replace the master cylinder as well. The insides of the brake drums, probably should have these turned, really. I could probably make these work by just scuffing them with sandpaper, just to get this glazing off of here. You can see where there was no, you can see where the shoe was. Like, see, there is where the shoe stopped. This is where the shoe was, and there's where it wasn't, where the rust has been. Alright. Thankfully, the gas tank has a drain plug, which will make things easier, and it doesn't sound full. Well, it might have a few gallons in it, but at least it's not 20 gallons. That would suck. You can see there's cobwebs and stuff built up underneath the car. At least I wasn't being chased by spiders and mud daubers and everything else out of this car. You can see there's some spider webbing up in here. Yep. And there, yeah. And we're going to change the fluid in the gear oil. I'm sure it's never moved, so it's probably just hideous smelling. Something along in between smelling like a chemical plant explosion. And raw sewage. Made a list of things to do on the car to get it running again. This is just your basic stuff, but there'll be probably other stuff. Replace the master cylinder, wheel cylinders, repack the bearings, get inner seals for it, which I don't have inner seals yet. Bleed brakes, obviously. Rebuild the carburetor, replace the fuel filter, drain old gasoline, get a new fan belt because it's older and dirt and cracked. It's going to need new tires, new antifreeze, oil change, trans fluid, gear oil change. So basically all fluids changed. So I got to get, I'm one wheel cylinder short, and I need to get inner seals and a fan belt. Should be pretty easy, and then we can get started. 28-year-old gasoline. Oh man, does that reek. Thank God there's not a lot of it. Barely a gallon. Not even that. Ugh. That smells awful. The fuel filter is dry, but as you can see, it had rust flakes in it. Ooh. That ain't good. Just drain the gas tank. There's more rust flakes in here. That's just old gas residue, I guess. comes right out. That'll clean up. These are little fuel filters. It's like a little gas. Sits like that. Hangs from a fuel line. Here's the new one. Yep. Inside, much better. Not perfect, not like brand spanking new, like it was right off the 57 showroom floor, but definitely usable. Also, just check the float levels, hold them upside down, checking float rise, and then you flip the thing over to do check float drop. They were holding the gasket up like that. That's how you do float drop. Measure from about the end of the float to the gasket. That's all. I didn't have to touch the floats. They're exactly where correct according to the little sheet here that came with the rebuild kit. So, oops, I'm dropping the accelerator pump. There we go. The new gaskets, and the new gasket kits come with accelerator pumps and stuff that are not susceptible to ethanol gases. As long as you don't leave them in there for 28 years, the gases, you should be fine. And now I get to put the lid back on. All back together. And I want to put it back on the engine. This was the base gasket that was on the engine when I took the carburetor off. And something didn't look right about it. So it was facing down like this. Alright. Like this. You see how there's a, like that? There is a hole sticking out of the bottom. Now it's just the exhaust crossover, but it isn't good. Now the owner of the vehicle said they tried to get it running like 10, 12 years ago, and the gasoline was just pouring out of the bottom of the carburetor onto the intake manifold. And this is probably why. Let me show you on the carburetor itself. Hang on one second. Okay, here's the bottom of the carburetor. And this is the side. Let's see here. Oh, this, okay, hold on a second. This was the side that was facing the carburetor. Notice how this indentation goes off the side of the carburetor over here too. And watch when I line it up. I'm going to raise it up here. I'm going to line it up on the intake manifold, on the bottom of the carburetor. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do two things at once here. Okay. So there it is, lined up on the stud. See that? And that isn't good. And you don't want that. With it not sealing correctly, the idle mixture screws are probably just dumping gas out of the side. This is a chamber for the exhaust crossover here, but it's not good. It causes a vacuum leak if it's not sealing correctly. If you have the wrong gasket, it's not going to run right. It'll probably be lucky if it even starts. So this is the gasket that came in the kit. So see how it fits better? It's also got this one here, which is similar. I don't like this one because it doesn't cover this area here. You see how it doesn't cover that? Cover that? Yeah, that's a vacuum leak. So we're not using that one. We're going to use this one here. Alright, the carburetor's back on. I haven't hooked up the fuel filter or to the carburetor or the fuel line to the carburetor. I'm gonna
crank the engine with just like a water bottle or something and see what kind of gas comes out of the fuel line, if anything comes out of it. I'm not positive the fuel pump isn't bad, even though the clean gas came pouring out of the gas tank after I put in 2 gallons of gas in it and let it sit overnight. It didn't have a bunch of sludge and muck and everything else in it, but I just want to be sure there's nothing in the lines and make sure the lines aren't clogged up as well. Okay, let's see what cranks. Nothing coming out. Well, I think I might have to pull the fuel line off the car fuel pump, see what's going on. Alright. Well, unlike these guys that do like junkyard builds and stuff, our junkyard restarts will run after 30 years in the salvage yard. I'm just going to see if the original fuel pump is going to work or not. I wanted to see if any gas would come out. Oops. maybe that's why no gas came out. Let me try it again. Still nothing. Alright, well, I guess I got to pull the fuel line off the car, off the fuel pump, see what's going on. Down there in the shadows is the fuel pump. This is the rubber line that was going between the hard line and the fuel pump. And there's nothing coming out. The rubber line only goes to there. Then it meets up with a hard line that goes back to the gas tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use compressed air and blow it out, see if I can blow anything out the other way. Maybe the sock is all clogged up in the tank. What I do is I, off camera, sprayed air, pressurized air into the fuel line back towards the fuel tank. And I could hear bubbling back there, but no fuel came back this way. I'm really hoping I don't have to drop the gas tank on this thing, because it would suck. Alright, let's try cranking it again, see if we get any gas out of it. Still nothing. Here's an old soup can. It's the old style that before they had the pull-off tops. These are like this is like a Campbell's tomato soup can. And I pinch it, and then I use it to fill the carburetor through the vents. Look at this. Let's see if we can get anything going out of this car. Doesn't feel like the accelerator pump's full yet. Alright, well, let's see if it'll fire. Well, good news is it's running. Good news, running. It's running. Bad news? No fuel coming out of the fuel pump. Still. Either the fuel line is clogged, or the socket's clogged, or the fuel pump's dead. After 28 years, it could be either. I'm hoping it's the fuel pump. If it's got to be changed out, that'd be a nice thing. But I'm going to try to start it one more time. This is kind of cool. There it goes. Ooh, look at that ugly stuff. Yuck. That's gross. I'm glad I didn't put hook it up to the carburetor, because that's gross. Oops, let me get these pink towels out of here before they catch on fire. Wow, she actually runs. Yuck. Alright, well. Oh. Look at the garbage that's in the bottom. Oh man, I hope that's not in the fuel tank, because none of that came out of the fuel tank. Yuck. Start her up again. Well, that's cleaner. Oof. Still a lot of sediment in there. Can you see the sediment in there? Let me pull this up so you can see this. Can you see? Ooh. Can you see the sediment in there? Yeah. A little cleaner. Not much. Tried rinsing it out in my pond to get the sediment out of it, but I'm just going to start it up again. It won't run very long because it's only going to run on the carburetor, the gas that's already in the carburetor, so it won't run very long. But I don't want this to blow all over the place. Yep, she ran out of gas in the carburetor. Oh man. I'm going to get a paint filter and filter this and see what I got. Hang on. Alright, so this is a paint filter, but it works for this kind of stuff too. Trying to see what's in here. Of course, it goes right to the corner. It's not rust. It's like rubber hose. So I think what it is that rubber hose is just basically so old it's actually deteriorating from the inside out. The only other thing it could be is the diaphragm. So what I'll do is I'll put a new rubber hose on that section. I think it's the only rubber hose on the car. I'll have to look at underneath the truck, underneath the car as well, but we'll keep going. Well, forgive me with all the fan noise. I got the fans running. It's currently 84 degrees in here right now, so it's a bit chilly. Even though it's cooling down outside, it's like the breeze changed. So we might have a cooler day tomorrow. Today was like 98 degrees. It was hot. So I didn't bother working on the car very much during the heat. These are times it's almost 9 o'clock right now, which is a good time to be working outside with the doors open. It won't be too much longer when we'll be able to do this. Have the doors closed and the heat on and bundled up. So I guess I shouldn't complain too much. Oops. All I'm going to do is, look at the hose. It looks fine, doesn't it? I mean, it's a Gates. It's a little stiff because it is 30 years old. Now I've had this happen once before where the hose from age started deteriorating on the inside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray carb cleaner or brake clean down the hose into the bottle and see if any hose residue comes out. I'm hoping so. That would confirm it, and then I can just replace the hose and move on. Still, double check, always double check. Because I don't want that sediment gas getting into here after we just rebuilt it. Alright. I hope you can see this. I can't see the camera right now, so. But, watch. See all the black crap coming out of the hose? Yeah. Yeah, that's an old hose. What I'm going to do is replace the hose and start it up again and see if I get cleaner fuel coming out now. So I'm going to replace the hose first. Excuse me. I was just going to cut it to length using this, but you can see how it has a pretty sharp bend in it, and it's almost kinked when it was on the car. So I'm going to go a little bit longer and give it a longer loop. I'll show you when I get it on. You guys getting a good view of the top of my head? I'm not crazy calic. Cleaned out the water bottle with a little bit of brake clean. Let's fire this thing up again, see what we got. Ooh, that's better. Start it for a little bit. I don't want to run it very long because there's 30-year-old oil in it and 30-year-old antifreeze, so I'm not going to run it very long. Oof. Still nasty crap coming out. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see that. Let me come around and look. Yeah, can you see all that garbage in there? That's not good. I don't know what that is. It's not rust. I wonder if the rubber hose at the back is doing the same thing. At least the gasoline doesn't smell horrible. I mean, it's not super clear, as you can see, but it doesn't smell like 30-year-old turpentine either. So yeah, I might have to flush the lines out. Gross. I know this isn't really good for this fuel pump right now, but I might have to replace it anyways. But this isn't rust, it's just rubber bits, as far as I can tell. I'm gonna filter this, hang on. Okay. So I poured it into the filter. Hope it'll focus on that. Can you see this? It's like, it's just black stuff. It's not rust, which is good because the gas tank would have to be replaced, but I think it's just more rubber shit from the, excuse my language. It's more rubber stuff. You can see it there from bad hoses. Alright. So in order to blow out the hard line, the first thing I did is I removed the rubber hose line from the hard line on the engine side up here. You can see this is it here. This is a spark plug wire that you're seeing here. And I'm going to get underneath the car in the back and remove the hard line, from the sending unit. Okay, this is the setup back here underneath the car, and see, that's the sending unit, and then the hard line. There's no rubber between the hard line and on the sending unit and the hard line and for the one in the car that runs up front, which is interesting. I guess that's, like I say, I'm not an expert on these 57s, so I'm going to disconnect. And the other thing I might do is I might pull the sending unit out and see if the sock is there. I'm not even sure if these cars in this era had a sock, but we'll get working on that.
Okay, I got it off. So let's see if I can do this one-handed and hold this camera. No way to put a tripod underneath here. Not much room for anything. You know, I might blow it up. Well, there's no room up front either. Let's see here. Pull it out a little bit. I'm gonna have to rebend it. Oops. There's not much room between the differential here and the gas tank to get even a spray can in between. I'm afraid I'm gonna drop the camera and do this one-handed. There's still brown, horrid crap coming out of the fuel pump up to the carburetor, and I'm still putting it in the plastic bottle after spraying out the fuel line. Now, it could still be the fuel pump causing all that, but there's only so much fuel that the fuel pump will hold before it starts pulling clean gas out of the gas tank. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drain about another gallon of gas out of the fresh gas I already put in it, out of the tank, and see what we got. Maybe it's, I'm hoping that we don't have to replace the gas tank or have it boiled out. I mean, it's pretty clean gasoline. There's some specks and stuff in it, but I just tried to clean out the drain pad. I use this drain pad for everything, so it had some specks of crap in it to begin with. So what is making it bring up filthy, dirty gas after I clean the fuel line out? Maybe I'll just keep running it until I get fresh gas out of the gas tank, I guess. I don't know. Alright, let's try it again. Okay. Wow, that's cleaner. That's cleaner. Alright. It's yellow, but it's a hell of a lot cleaner than it was. And there's very little sediment in it. So I think we're about at a point where we can actually hook the filter up and run it off the gasoline tank. I don't feel horrible about running the gas, this little gas through it. It's not perfect by any match, but it's a lot better. Hey, I just pulled the dipstick out, and it's not completely dry. I mean, and it doesn't smell that bad either. Now, again, I haven't tried to run it. But the fluid isn't black and sludgy either, so maybe this thing only needs a couple of quarts. Maybe we'll get lucky. The dipstick is way back there, or you'll burn your arm on the exhaust manifold. Okay, I'm gonna go get a plastic filter. Okay, time has come to change the oil. Now, on this 57 283, it has a canister style oil filter. This is what it looks like inside the can here. And if you're old enough to remember, the 265s in 55 and 56, I don't believe either year of those had a filter at all. Which, let's see what we get here. The oil's been in here for 28 years, though. I did run the car engine a bunch of times, but only a few seconds at a time. I think I ran it at the longest, like 30 seconds, because I was running it mostly just off the gasoline that I poured down the carburetor. So, see what we get here. The engine and the exhaust still look good for sitting around for 30 years. 28 years. Damn, this drain plug is long. Okay, there we go. Oops, there it goes. Let me put that down there. And it does smell old and gassy, like it had old gasoline in it. As you can see, it's pretty dark. Smells like we've been running rich for a while. Already making a mess. I suppose that I could start listening to both of these and make a bigger mess together. Just make a mess together. This big drain pan is real nice. I've had this thing for probably 15 years. It's thick. It doesn't flex, which means you can pick it up with 2 gallons of fluid in it and it ain't gonna fold in half and pour it all over your shoe like some of the cheaper ones. Now I do have the smaller, cheaper, thinner ones that I use for other things, so I can have multiple. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. I've never changed one of these before. And I've worked on cars that are old enough to have a canister style filter. Most of them are up on the top of the engine, like the 50s Cadillacs and such. They have a canister, and then the oil. I have an oil pressure feed line coming up from somewhere on the engine block. I'm gonna let that one drip some more. Well, let's see if we can get some more oil out of this. A little faster. Pull the bolt out. Oh, wow, that's a long bolt. Look how long that bolt is. Woo! That's a long bolt. Don't want to lose this one. It's shouldered like a head bolt. See how it's got a thick shoulder down here? Yeah, you can't get one of these at your normal hardware store. Is that a washer stuck to it? Let's have a roll of paper towels down here. Oop. That sounds gross. Since this thing has only got 50 miles on the engine, and that was 28 years ago, I'm going to pour this oil out through a filter when I pour it into my container, and I want to see if there's any metal in it at all. I mean, the engine sounds spectacular. It had a little bit of lifter noise, but oil 28 years ago probably still had zinc in it. So 50 miles, so it probably still had the break-in oil in it. This engine's not really, if it only had 50 miles of driving time, it really wasn't even broken in yet. But running it a little while ago, there was no smoke. It sounded good. There's no rod knock. But I'm going to put Rotel Shell 1540, and then I'm going to dump a can of SDP in it. And because that is, not only SDP also has a zinc in it as well. Bet you didn't know that. Yeah, the original formula of SDP has had zinc in it since the 60s. It's kind of stuck on there. That's weird. Alright. The drain plug is big. It's 7/8 of an inch. Hex on it. And this bolt here is a 1/2 inch bolt because it's got a 3/4 inch hex on it. Nope, that didn't start. I'm going to save the gasket on it if I can, but well, and the gasket is like way up here, and it doesn't want to turn. It's like jammed on there. A little persuasion with a rubber mallet. Let's see how it goes up and down now. So now we get this back in there. So, get the thread started by hand. On stuff like this, I don't use impacts or anything like that. I just, because if you screw up the threads, you're never going to know it till it's too late when you're using an impact. Alright, now she's going up in there nice and smooth. There we go. I'm sure there's torque specs for these things. If it doesn't leak, then it's torqued. Oh, good, he's got plenty. Well, I was going to drain the engine next, change the fluid in it, and I was hoping I wouldn't have to fight with drain plugs. But check this out. He has got, look at that, right there. He's got a petcock in the side of the block. Cool. Hope the other side does too. Alright, now let's find out what's going on with his oil. Okay, I'm starting with STP oil treatment. It's like 87 degrees in here, so it's in the garage, so that it pours pretty good. You can see how it pours. You do this in like 30-degree weather, it's like maple syrup, or more like molasses, I should say. Look at that. It's pretty thick stuff. Yes, this is the same stuff that was in Richard Petty's car in the 70s. Show rotility. Stuff still has zinc in it. Most standard oils that you find at your parts store don't. This is only a gallon, so 4 quarts. I don't know how many quarts this engine takes, these old oil pans. I suppose I could look it up. It's got to be somewhere between 4.5 and 5. Though I've dealt with some old 283s from the 60s that only took 4.5, so I'm just going to put in a gallon and start it, let it sit for a minute, and then I'll check the oil in the morning. If it does need a half a quart or a quart, it's no big deal. I guess you think, man, Scott's really short. Well, the car's still on jack stands, so I'm not that short. I'm also not as tall as Derek Vieri on Vice Grip either, so Yes, when we met, I was looking up at him. 1 gallon down. We'll let the dips, the funnel sit in there for a minute and drain out. Okay, we're draining the radiator. Pet cotton pours out the bottom when you turn it in, or loosen it up. And you can see there, it looks pretty good, actually. And it's draining out from the splash pan into the drain bucket through a bunch of old places in the cross member. Again, it looks great, but again, it's actually it's 28-year-old antifreeze. So, would you trust it? I thought I'd go over this, but you've never seen this before. Can you see it? You notice how valve cover bolts are not straight across from each other like on most years. 55, 56, 57, and possibly 58. They had offset bolt hole, valve cover bolt holes. That's why you never notice how your valve cover gaskets always have an extra set of holes on one side. This is why for the first 3 years or 4 years of valve cover valve covers that were designed for earlier engines. These early small blocks are pretty cool. They have a little bit different things about them. So I'm refilling the thing with coolant and water. I buy concentrate, and then I buy distilled water. You can buy bottles of distilled water still for $1. And concentrate's a little more expensive than the 50-50 mix. But if you think about it, this bottle's 12 bucks, and then the 50-50 mix was $10. So you're saving $2 to get 50% water. And that's already poured that one in. So what I'm doing is I pour in the bottle a gallon of antifreeze first, and then a gallon of this. You can pre-mix it yourself beforehand if you have extra bottles lying around. I don't. I got about 3 gallons out of the engine and the radiator. So I drained there's a petcock in the bottom of the motor. Unfortunately, there's a regular standard plug on the other side. My hands are in my way. Camera aware, Scott. Camera aware. There was a plug on the other side that's been in there forever, and it won't come out without short of me stripping out the Allen head. So I'm just going to leave that one in. But we did get 3 gallons of antifreeze water out of it. So we'll just kind of, it'll have 80% new water and antifreeze in it, which is probably close enough. We're waiting for this to warm up. The generator light is on for some reason, but 14.5 volts, barely at 800 RPM. So I guess there was something wrong with the light or the wiring to the light. Pouring it everywhere, it's just in the radiator. One way to find out if your thermostat is open. Obviously, if the water's flowing, the thermostat's open. Is the air being pulled off the radiator by the fan goes from cool air, basically cool air, to hot air. So if it's hot air, you know the thermostat's open. Because that means the water's running through the radiators. Hot air, water's coming out of the top radios and pulling it in. We have a temperature setting gauge here. They put in after it's installed. It says it's 160 degrees right now. Yeah. Almost to 170. Not sure what thermostat they have in it. I would hope it'd have 180. Maybe I should get the drain pan in case it bursts out here. Okay, it's at 180 now. The hottest this engine's been and the longest it's run since it was parked in 1994. Wow. Probably should have my face right over the radiator hole in case it's hot. 185. Let's see if we can give it a little bit of throttle. 190. Still hasn't opened. Oh, there it is. It looks like I might be running out of gas too. Yeah, she's running out of gas. I have to shut her off. Whoa! Glad I wasn't standing there when that blew up. Look at that, she dropped back to 150 almost instantly. Well, now I've done it. I made a clean spot in here. Well, she's running now. Kind of holding steady right around 160 degrees, so I'm guessing that's what the thermostat is in it. They said overheated. Oh, jeez. Now the antifreeze that it blew all over the place is being cooked off the engine. It's actually fogging up my glasses. Yep, fogging up my glasses. Which is good. What I'll do is I'll let it cool down overnight and check it back in the morning and top it off. Well, the first test drive did not go as planned. As a matter of fact, it didn't go anywhere. We never made it out of the garage. I put it in gear, back out, or actually go forward. The shift pattern on these old transmissions is park, neutral, drive, low, and then reverse. So I put it in drive, and the high-speed idle kicked on, and then the brake pedal went to the floor. So, and I almost slammed into my refrigerator in my toolbox with this beautiful old car here, which was not good. So, it's now a couple of days later. I fixed the carburetor, pulled it back off. It was also dripping a little bit of fuel out of the boosters, which meant the front float was a little high. So now we still got it. We got to bleed the brakes again. Make sure we got a better pedal this time. I can stop the car, but it's like a triple pump, and that's not good. You don't want to triple pump the brakes every time you stop. So I got to do that, and then I also have to. I already pulled the carb off and refixed it. I guess it was still a little gummy. It still had some gumminess in it, even after all the cleaning I did to it. That was like 5 cans of carb cleaner in that damn carburetor, cleaning all that shit out. And so now we're back here. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to pull the belt off, and I'm going to pull one of the spark plugs out. I'm going to replace the belt. The belt's really old. I mean, it's really, really old. I'll show it to you in a second. And one of the spark plugs, I have no idea what spark plugs are in this. These are the same spark plugs. I've been running it on the same spark plugs this engine had it. It was in it 28 years ago and was driven 46 miles before the owner passed away. So I think they're pretty fouled, and it's showing like one of the plugs isn't really firing that great. So I'm gonna replace them anyways. 28 years. It's a good time to replace both the plugs and the belt. So. Hang on a second while I do that. Oh good, there is a number on the belt, which makes it easier to cross it over. As you can see, the belt, it's kind of showing its age. Hang on a second. There, we have some proper lighting, so you can see what I'm talking about. It's cracking, I'm sure you could drive on it, but what's the point? Belts are like $10. Replace it. Okay, here's the belt. There we go. That's the part number. Good old Goodyear belt, but you can see there. See how the belt is no good. That's no good. Whoops, come on, focus. There we go. Focus. Anyhow, spark plug is an AC Delco R45. I've never seen these before. Maybe that's what they figure out the gap on this too. Why aren't you focusing? Focus! There we go. Pretty tight gap. The plug doesn't look bad. This is number 3. The number 3 plug on the driver's side, or number 3 plug, which is the second one back. That was the easiest one to get to. But it has these sharp little 10 things that are heat shields. One of them bit me. So, trying to take it out. I'm going to go get new parts.
That's a better idea.
something about stock 50s cars is completely different from today's.
Yeah.
You want to go by the gas station?
Yeah, we probably better.
There's a little mushy still.
Ooh.
Yeah, probably pulling that 2 gallons away from the pickup. Turn signals are working.
Speedometer seems to be working.
Yeah, she walls around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, turn signal turned off. That's good.
That is good.
Cool.
I mean, you guys did such a nice job, took care of this car so well. A lot of people just park their crap out in the weeds and leave it to rust, and everything's bad. And then you're starting all over again. This is amazing.
Something to be said about temperature controlled.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, driving it for the first time after 28 years and it still feels like a freshly restored car. That's just, what a relief that is. And as you saw the owner there, he was driving it for a little bit. I'm sure he's a bit reserved. I'm sure he's excited. So he wants to schedule to get it back home and take it home and start enjoying it again after all this time. I'm sure he was wishing that he didn't wait this long, but it's good. Thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications if you like these kind of videos. I do a little bit of everything. I don't do everything. I don't sit there and do nothing but junkyard runs. I work on cars. I go to junkyards. I go to races. So if you like this stuff, please subscribe. Thanks a lot. Looks like we got to fix the taillight there. That's cool.